After Hayride, which Gary didn't like at all, Snuff Garrett told him that there was no more market for Gary Lewis and the Playboys. Gary soldiered on alone for 2 more singles, acting as his own producer and arranger, and recording songs by his latest Oklahoma bandmates Arnold Rosenthal and Billy Merle Boatman. Ironically, his Liberty journey came to a close with I'm on the Right Road Now. When the end came, Lewis struggled with it. My very first attempt at a career was huge, and I was not ready to be unpopular. I didn't know how to handle that. That was a terrible time. Fortunately, Gary met the woman to whom he's married today, Donna Grow, and got his life back on track. Today he looks back with no regrets. I was thrilled to death to be doing that. It was really so much fun. And today we have our last regular episode of my Gary Lewis and the Playboys album series, Gary Lewis, I'm on the Right Road Now. Welcome back, Gary Lewis and the Playboys fans. Today we cover the final album in the Gary Lewis and the Playboys saga. This won't be the last video, though. I have a very special wrap-up video coming soon. You saw nothing. Who knows about that? But a big thanks to all of you who watch, who have contributed help and information. I really appreciate it. Make sure to give you a shout out in the next video as we wrap the series up. It's been a lot of fun to make, and I'm looking for another group now that I can go through each album in their discography too. So if you have any ideas, please do comment them below. So a couple interesting things about this last record from 1969. I'm on the Right Road Now. I know in past videos I have accidentally called it I'm on the Road Right Now, which is not the correct title. I guess it's the same thing as that single, Has She Got the Nicest Eyes, where I kept calling it She Has Got the Nicest Eyes, that kind of thing. But anyway, pretty interesting looking album there. Definitely something a little bit different from Gary and the group. So you might notice, of course, this is just Gary Lewis, no and the Playboys. We saw on the album Listen earlier in the series that Gary was credited on the sleeve, but Gary Lewis and the Playboys credited on the record. For this one, it is just Gary Lewis in its entirety. No Playboys involved, except they do list his backing team. You can see in this picture, we have Gary on guitar, Charlie Carey, Arnold Rosenthal, and Billy Boatman. So, even though it's not Gary Lewis and the Playboys, we have Gary Lewis and his backing band. This marks the first time since the second LP, a session with Gary Lewis and the Playboys, that we've had identified backing musicians. In this case, they're not even Playboys. So, very, very strange. We're off to a weird start already, I think, in that regard. So, for liner notes, I should say, we get a little poem, which I will read. It's not the first Gary Lewis album to use a poem. Alright. At first, one road looks pretty much like any other road. Yet somehow they keep ending up in different places. Seems like everybody at some time has got to go down the main road. Elvis, Buddy Holly, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis each traveled the musical Route 66 before finding his own way. Learning which path, which way off the main, is an artist's first objective. Getting on it, staying on it, is a whole nother thing. In this album, Gary has taken his turn. It's off the main. A new sound for Gary. A new direction. A right turn. Gary feels it. We believe it. Come along. We think you'll agree. He's on the right road now. And it's by Graham, a.k.a. Jeremy Kronsberg, excuse me. So, there you go. We get another epic slam poem there. You thought the one on the Listen album was epic. Maybe that one was more epic yet. Who knows? Very interesting. So, no Playboys, but credited backing musicians. A poem for liner notes. All sorts of craziness going on there. Pretty interesting stuff. Alright, so this record is still sealed. The tag says Gary Lewis 1970 still sealed, and I purchased it that way. I was originally thinking, you know what, for my last normal episode I could open up this album and take this out of the sleeve for the first time since 1970. But then, you might remember, not last Christmas but the Christmas before, came out on CD for the first time. So I based my reviews off people's vinyl uploads online and on the CD. I'm going to keep mine sealed, at least for now. The CD is a twofer, in the sense it has this album plus Gary's last couple singles. We're not going to cover those singles today. We'll save them for the big conclusion. There's another shot of the back of the sleeve for you. So definitely some interesting stuff. This album, I guess you could argue, is not a Gary Lewis album. It's not on his official website. Yeah, I should say Gary Lewis and the Playboys album, because it's just a Gary Lewis album. But nonetheless, Wikipedia, of course, lists it under the Playboys discography, and the singles CD collection includes everything from it as well. All of the singles, they're just lumped in. So, like a lot of those other sources, I'm just going to lump this in with the Gary Lewis and the Playboys stuff. It makes the most sense. I don't really know what else you could even do with it. And it is an interesting album, too. Gary's last LP, of course, even after those accompanying 1970s singles, Gary did a few other things. He did his song You Can't Go Back. He's redone This Diamond Ring. Of course, he tours live. We'll talk more about that next week. Talk about my experience seeing Gary live for the second time. But at the end of the day, kind of a weird, quirky ending to things. Alright, let's get into it then. So you might remember, Gary's got his team here, especially Arnold Rosenthal and Billy Boatman, who are helping him to write songs. We start off with one of Arnold Rosenthal's compositions, Something Is Wrong. This was paired with a later song on the album called I Saw Elvis Presley Last Night on a single. It's debated online if it was the A-side or the B-side, or maybe it was intended to be a double A-side. It's hard to say, but Something Is Wrong, just kind of a plain rocker. It's kind of standard, nothing really special there. It is catchy, it is fun. On the singles collection it's listed as the A-side, but other sources online listed as the B-side. I'm not sure. Again, could have been double A-side single. Not super remarkable, but something interesting, a good start to it there. We have a composition by Rosenthal and Billy Boatman. We have Times Are A-Changin', not the Bob Dylan song, but rather kind of this rockabilly tune. This one about moving on, doing something different, kind of getting stuck in the same place, unable to get out. It feels very, very relevant to no doubt what Gary was doing. You might notice on the cover here, Gary has facial hair. Looks very trendy in his denim jacket and striped trousers. You know, he's trying to get rid of that clean-cut, boy-next-door, fun guy image and be a little rough, you know, be more of a rocker, that sort of thing. I didn't have denim, so I wore my blue pajamas. I don't think it matters. But anyway, nonetheless, this might be one of those songs to kind of help push that image that, hey, you know, we're done being stuck in the past. We're done being the nice, sweet boys next door. Now we're going to really rock. That kind of thing. Alright, then we get to what is one of the main reasons this album is remembered, the Elvis Presley tribute song, I Saw Elvis Presley Last Night. Gary, Arnold Rosenthal, and Billy Boatman all worked on it. Of course, tribute to Elvis, about seeing him in the show and all the girls going crazy, everything like that. Kind of a story song. Gary, I know, is an Elvis fan. He's mentioned it before, so no doubt he saw him in Las Vegas or wherever and just figured, oh, hey, I'll write a song about that experience. It reminds me a lot of the Beach Boys' Johnny Carson, talking all about this particular personality and kind of building him up and so on. It's not one of my favorites on here. It is kind of interesting. I'm sure Elvis appreciated it, and I guess Gary and his wife Donna, who he's still married to today, got a chance to meet him, so that was probably a win. After that, we get I'm Ready If You're Willin'. Now, you might remember, for these last few Gary Lewis records, we saw several repeat songs. Rhythm of the Rain is on 2 albums. There are a few other titles as well, CC Rider. Here we get something very bizarre. I'm Ready If You're Willin' is simply Backdoor Key from this album. You can see it on the track list there. So Backdoor Key was reused, but given a new title. That was so disappointing to me when I first started digging into this album for the video. Imagine if you bought one of those new Pet Sounds copies and said it had a song called I May Not Always Love You, and you listen to it and it's just God only knows. You know, it's like, really? To change a title like that? I thought that was pretty sneaky. Not a big fan. They do change it up a little bit. They add this kind of spoken word outro, where presumably Gary and the other bandmates are doing a fake commercial for Morton's Hotel and Skytop Towers. Check them out immediately. Free combs and brushes for your girlfriend. It's really weird. It feels like they're going for that Beach Boys party, the Who Sell Out, the Beatles Let It Be, that kind of, oh, it's a jam session, it's a spoken word silliness kind of thing, and I don't know, it doesn't work here. It's the only track on the album to do it as well, which is even more bizarre. Not sure what the plan was here, but to reuse a song and then, you know, stick some kind of closing stuff on there, I'm not a huge fan there. Apparently Backdoor Key was inspired by 1940s tunes like Backdoor Man and I'm Ready, which I didn't know much about, but you can see that Gary trying to update them and also make them a little more family friendly. I do like the song. I just wish they had been honest and said it was the same recording. Speaking of same recordings, another repeater from the previous album, 3 Cheers, pops up here as well. Interestingly, the CD, which again is how I listen to this, remixes this song in stereo, specifically. So that was kind of interesting. Nothing else is really different. 3 Cheers I always thought was Gary's song about coming back after his military service and not being able to fall back into the same rhythm and do the same things he used to do. Kind of melancholy for him, but an interesting choice. I can see why they might have used it twice. And lastly, we get our only kind of true blue cover for this record. You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain. Bum 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 bum. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. If you see Gary live, as I just did the other day, Gary always makes a joke about being interviewed by a young journalist who said, I love your music, and I love your dad too. His song, Great Balls of Fire, was amazing. And that always leads to a good gag there. Of course, Jerry Lee Lewis was not related to Jerry or Gary Lewis in any way. But Gary does his cover of Great Balls of Fire, and I think he does a good job. This was paired with I'm on the Right Road Now as a single. Yeah, it's one of those covers that Gary doesn't quite have the range that Jerry Lee Lewis does, but he does a serviceable job with it. It's such a great song, and he does have the energy for it. It is the final track on the Liberty Singles CD set too. But the only real cover for a group where we've seen so many covers on every album, to have mostly originals here is very unique and kind of a fun surprise. Flip the record over for the eponymous song, I'm on the Right Road Now. Again, I always want to call it I'm on the Road Right Now. That's not what it is called. So Billy Boatman gets the writing credit for this one. This is a pretty catchy tune. It shares the title with a gospel song, but it is not a gospel song. It is its own unique thing. I'm on the right road now, right road now. Of course, a good choice I think for the single, and a good choice for the title track as well. After that we go to I'm Gonna Shoot the Moon. Gary Lewis, Arnold Rosenthal, and Billy Boatman all get a writing credit on that. This one's pretty short, and it's mostly about New York City, kind of wandering around, going to the Village, going to Broadway. Really not a whole lot to say about it. It's like a quickie album filler kind of rocker tune. I found it pretty forgettable. Then we go to Co-op Farm by Arnold Rosenthal. So Co-op Farm, a little bit different. It's this kind of sort of spoken word, but also sung ditty, I guess, about working on a farm, growing the carrots and the onions. A lot of people compare it to the Rolling Stones' Let It Bleed, and it is kind of similar in that regard. It has this weird sort of country-ish sound, but while Let It Bleed, I think, is kind of a deep, meaningful song, Co-op Farm is all about not wanting to work on the farm, but also wanting to work on the farm and collecting all these vegetables and harvesting things, and I don't know, I found it kind of strange. I'm not really sure what the purpose of it was. I don't know, maybe just not hip enough to know. Next up we have another repeater from the previous album. Orangutans do as the children do. Isn't life so easy? Arnold Rosenthal's Orangutan pops up here. On this record it is sped up. So it's more of almost like a upbeat kind of jumpin' jazzy rocker there instead of a slower song there. Of course, we've seen other artists use sped up recordings. The Beach Boys toured with the speed of Caroline No and It's Okay for various releases. So it makes sense that Gary and other groups could do it as well. We get next up, Silly Girl by Arnold Rosenthal. Silly Girl I wasn't a big fan of. The mixing, at least on the CD, is really bad. It's very hard to understand the lyrics. It's kind of an ordinary rocker song about selfishness in a relationship, and I didn't really get much out of it there either. I don't know, maybe I'm just missing something. And lastly, we have Roll Over Rover. Some of the Discogs images of this album, info about this album, said that Roll Over Rover was paired with I'm on the Road Right Now, or I'm on the Right Road Now, excuse me, as a single in certain parts of the world. They had pictures of the sleeves for that. So Roll Over Rover was presumably, at least in some parts of the world, paired with the title song for a single. Roll Over Rover is kind of this weird rock, nursery rhyme-ish kind of thing. Again, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's different. It's kind of a nonsense song, I guess you would say. It's fun. I could see where it might be a single, but it doesn't really do much for me personally. And that's it for Gary's last album. I'm on the right road now. Alright, I got it right for a change. I'm on the right road now. And that one, it has some interesting ideas. I like that we get so many originals. I like that it has kind of that quirky attitude that was kept by the past couple albums, trying to do something very, very different and be a little weird and show, hey, you think Gary's a square? He's not a square. He does all kinds of crazy things. But really, at the end of the day, I also found it to be kind of underwhelming. A lot of the songs are just kind of forgettable. Plus, we have 3 repeaters, one of which was marketed as something new. Not a big fan of that either. We will talk about Gary's post-album singles next time when we do our wrap-up. They're kind of just footnotes, really, in the grand scheme of things. So please comment below what Gary Lewis and the Playboys albums or singles you really enjoy, and which one you like the best in the video series. And of course, if you have a suggestion of who I should review next, please do comment that below too. Thank you for joining me on this musical odyssey. I'll see you next time for the conclusion video. Till then, my friends, go out, get on the road, and go buy yourself a diamond ring. And we'll see you next time. So long.